to history. We are doing revision chapters, that is for you to study before exams.
We are now looking at ruling the countryside.
Let's summarize Diwan and Diwani.
Robert Clive, the British East India Company officer, had accepted the Diwani rights of Bengal on the 12th of August 1965. This event, in all probability, happened in his tent, but Robert also commissioned a painter who painted the scene and showed it to be very, very grand.
Yes, the Mughal emperor was Diwan, becoming a finance administrator. Diwan is the tax collecting department and Diwani is the administrator rights. So please don't get confused between Diwan and Diwani.
Now let's look at the calamity that Bengal was struck with. There was a disastrous famine.
Bengal was facing a deep economic crisis which led to a terrible famine, and famine is scarcity of food, I hope you know. And even like most suffered ones were the artisans, and artisans were skilled craftsmen, so they suffered because their work was their work was only taken if they had had enough money. People had enough money because it was very much expensive. But now, since people had to put all their money in food and in clothing and more needed things, they were not allowed, like they were facing lots of problems, and also the peasants who were the farmers, of course.
The deep crisis killed 10 million people, which was almost one third of the population of Bengal.
This happened only and only because the British didn't manage goods properly and
Lack of rains.
now we have a settlement for tax collecting, which is the permanent settlement. It was introduced by Charles Cornwallis in 1793. What was this?
This was based on the fixed payment, irrespective of the outcome. So, in a famine situation or in floods, if you lose crops, the British just did not care about it. The farmers had to give a fixed payment.
Yes, but there were a few disadvantages. Like for example, the zamindars, like disadvantages for peasants were there, but for British also they were there, as the zamindars were like taking more money from the peasants and giving only a part of it that was supposed to be given to the British. So in this, only the zamindars were having more profit, and on top of that, the British were not using it for the welfare of the citizens or their country. They were only using it for their own profit.
Let's look at the Monroe system.
Wow, that's a very fluffy cap.
Yes.
So in the Monroe system, no middlemen were allowed, and by this I mean that the people who like for example, if I have to collect tax and give it to the government, so I am the middle person over here, and it's like there since there were no zamindars or village headmen in the south, this system was introduced.
So, this was introduced by Thomas Monroe and was also called as the ryotwari system.
Yes, ryotwari means cultivators or farmers.
Let's now look at the mahalwari system, which was the other one.
Yes, this was introduced by Holt Mackenzie, and it was it had a middleman, and here the middlemen were not zamindars, which they were usually. They were the village headmen who collected the revenue on behalf of the British, and then they gave it to the British.
So, if we look at certain concepts, per the British revenue records, mahal is a revenue estate, which could be a village or even a group of villages.
Let's summarize the Blue Rebellion. So if you look at this picture, you can see spears and bows and arrows. So what might this be related to?
Oh, this was an attack uh, which the local plantation people did on the Britishers. So they attacked them with spears, bows, and arrows. The women also participated in attacking them, and they used pots and pans. They also boycotted the farmers who worked for the British plantation owners, and also the Gomastas. Who are the Gomastas?
The Gumastas were the Indian agents of the British. But one thing, why didn't they want to plant indigo? This was because indigo had deep roots, and these deep roots made the soil very infertile, and after that they couldn't grow anything on the soil for almost 4 to 5 years. And these 4 to 5 years they wanted to grow something. Of course, you will not be happy by leaving the land empty, right? And another thing was that indigo was for a dye, and the actual thing that was beneficial for the Indians and the farmers was rice, because that was their staple food at that time, and it was for their well-being.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yes. Let's summarize the most important people in this chapter.
Robert Clive.
So Robert Clive was also called as a thief of India, and he was important because he had accepted the Diwani of Bengal. Another person was Thomas Munro, who introduced the Munro system or the ryotwari system in South India, which we already learned about. Charles Cornwallis, who introduced the permanent settlement when he was the Governor General of India. Sorry. Let's summarize the dates.
12th August 1765, Robert Clive accepted the Diwani of Bengal, which you are now familiar with. Before 1865, the company purchased its goods in India by importing gold and silver from Britain. After that,
In 1770, a terrible famine killed 10 million people in Bengal, that is 1/3 of the population. 1793, the company introduced a permanent settlement. 1822, the new system that Englishman called Holt Mackenzie devised came into effect. Mahalwari system. Between 1783 and 1789, the production of indigo in the world fell by half. August 1791, the slave revolt in Saint Dominic in the Caribbean islands took place. Let's continue the summary of dates. 1791, the slaves of Africa burnt their plants and killed the rich planters. This was African revolt. 1792, France abolished slavery. March 1859, thousands of ryots refused to grow indigo. 1857, revolt against indigo was made by the ryots. They started as you are already familiar with it. 1788, only about 30% of indigo was imported into Britain from India. By 1880, the proportion of indigo produced taken from India, sorry for the spelling mistake there, went up to 95%. 1917, Gandhiji's visit marked the beginning of the Champaran movement. Let's look at the practice questions with answers. When did the Mughal emperor appoint the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal? It is 12th of August 1765. I encourage you to pause the video whenever needed and think about questions, and if you have any doubts you may as well ask them in the comment section below, or if you're too shy, we will share an email address at the end of the video where you can email to us privately. So stay tuned till the end of the video. How did the East India Company become the Diwan of Bengal? The Mughal Emperor Shah Alam appointed the East India Company the Diwan of Bengal after the War of Buxar. As the Britishers had won, Robert Clive had accepted the Diwani rights of Bengal in his tent on August 12, 1765. What changes came in the company as it got the right of Diwan? EIC, that is East India Company, became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control and extract more taxes from the people without providing any facilities to the people. It focused on increasing its revenue by forcefully buying at the cheapest rates and maximizing the profits. Why did ruling the countryside become a necessity? Most of the population of India lives in its villages, and agriculture was also practiced, and artisans also lived in the villages. So most of the Britishers' profit was there. The produce that they needed was in the villages. The produce that they needed was also, sorry for the repetition, which was a huge part of India that at that time and still is. Which tragedy occurred in Bengal in 1770? The Great Famine that wiped out one third, that is 10 million people, of their population. What was the permanent settlement? Was the permanent settlement a scheme of the British? What were its disadvantages? Yes, it was a scheme of the British, and its disadvantages were: 1. The zamindars were taking more money and paying only a part of it to the British, as we have already discussed earlier. Second, if the zamindars could not pay the revenue collected by from the peasants, their houses were getting confiscated, which is not good, and this made them more oppressive, that is, more cruel. What did the permanent settlement mean? Who introduced it in Bengal and when? The permanent settlement was the type of tax that was first introduced in Bengal. It meant that at any time of the year the peasants had to pay a fixed amount of tax irrespective of the crop production. Charles Cornwallis introduced the system in 1793 when he was the Governor General of India. What system was introduced by Thomas Munro in South India? It's the name only suggests the Munro system, or the ryotwari system, which was ryots means cultivators or farmers, as we've already discussed earlier. Ryotwari system was introduced. It did not have any middleman, that is, any person in the middle. This also we've discussed. Sorry for repeating the same sentence again and again. The taxes were directly from the peasants to the British. What is the difference between the ryotwari or the mahalwari system? Here I have made a table. It's completely up to you or your teacher, and how your teacher or the examiner likes it. My teacher likes a table, so I have made one. Ryotwari and Mahalwari. So first point in Ryotwari, tax went directly from the peasants to the Britishers, and in Mahalwari the village headman collected the revenue on behalf of the entire village and handed it over to the British. Ryotwari system was introduced by Thomas Munro, and the Mahalwari system was introduced by Holt Mackenzie. A few questions that you have to try out by yourself. What do you mean by the Blue Rebellion, and when and why did it start? Why did farmers prefer growing rice over indigo? Tell the answers to us in the comments below, or if you are shy and don't want your answers to be displayed in public, you can send us an email through father.daughter.duo12 at gmail.com, as you can see here. And this is the email I was talking about. So don't worry, it will be linked in the description box below. So yes, sorry for that. And one more thing I would like to tell you is that we have tried a new font out, as you can see here, and we would like you to share to us down in the comments below if you like this font or not. If you don't like it, we can always change it for you. So thank you. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the notifications bell so that you don't miss any of our educational updates. and like our next video, actually not next, previous video of explanation of this same chapter will be linked down below, and also we will try to link it in the I above. And the reason I said I is because we are new to this channel, so uh, we'll have to figure that out. But I'm sure we'll be able to, and we'll do all the things that we've mentioned. And please don't forget to share your experience of this video in down in the comments below. Thank you so much.